Good evening. Jesus Christ, 5 people in the chat already front running me on saying good evening, hello, whatever. You guys know me too well. You guys know me too well. I've become too predictable. Need to shake it up. Say good morning or something. To like bamboozle some of you. Duck's so bullish that his resistance is green. Yeah. I just haven't updated yet. But This is gonna be an interesting one. This daily is the most interesting chart we've had in a long time. Weekly same, but this daily is gonna influence so much. So that's gonna be an interesting one. We have a little bit to talk about. Let me see. Hello, Mr. Don. Is the bottom not in, or am I coping? I'm out currently, would like to keep at least some of my bull market gains. It's hard to say. We'll talk about it. We'll see. You never know. Like, it's just a guessing game. This looks quite good to me, but this is also the best place to show it, right? But yeah, I have a setup here. Remind me if I don't talk about it. Like there's a bearish setup here. I'm not gonna take it. I'm still like leaning bullish, but there's a really good bearish setup here. So remind me if I don't talk about it in a bit. Anyway, can we get some ETH hopium? That's gonna be hard, my friend. It's gonna be really hard. ETH looks so bad. I mean, I'm still holding, but yeah. Before we properly start the show, big shout out to Woo for sponsoring it. Really appreciate their support. Go check them out. Links are in the description. They both have a decentralized exchange and a centralized exchange. Quite cool stuff. Both work quite well. So yeah, if you want to support them, links are in the description. Thank you. Yeah, thanks. Appreciate it. Makes me feel like I actually have a job and I'm not just sitting around doing nothing all day. It's the main purpose of this, where I'm like, I feel like I'm a functioning human being, function member of society, and not just a fucking trader that does nothing else. What are you guys doing for the next 2 years? Is this a play on the whole when I posted in 2021? What are you guys going to do for the next, like, whatever years? And then that was actually the peak or top, and we just went down for... No, I posted it here in 2021, and then we basically made a little bit of a new high and then just completely vanished. Good times. But yeah, let's run through this real quick. So the monthly, actually interesting. I think the bears have like a decent setup. I just don't like it. But so basically we had this whole consolidation here, broke down, and now we retested the monthly resistance, right? Yesterday, the day before yesterday, whatever, when Trump said they're gonna do like a Bitcoin strategic reserve, right? So basically we got a news pump into that monthly resistance. Like that's a nice area to take some profit. So that's resistance until proven otherwise. It's not the best resistance, but it is resistance. I just gotta say before I do all of this, like I'm still just chilling. I haven't changed my positioning. I'm just expecting higher, even though TA wise there's a few bearish, like there's a bearish setup on the monthly and on the daily. Weekly is good though. So retesting resistance here, wicked into it on bullish news, getting a little bit rejected here. Like that's still heavily bullish, just given all of this history, but that's like the first time where we are actually getting rejected by resistance. The first time we've actually even had the chance to be rejected by resistance since 2022, because it's just been up only on the monthly chart. This is the first time where there's a little bit of weakness. Trend's still strong though, and it's not really it doesn't really look like prior tops. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. So on the monthly, there's not really a bullish setup to be had. If anything, there's a bearish setup. I just tend to ignore it. On the weekly time frame, however, the opposite is true. Last week wiped below the range and then closed all the way back in it. This is bullish. Like, that's a really good close. And then we had this week, we had another wipeout, and so far that's kind of been reclaimed as well. So if this weekly closes above 90, I'm gonna assume the range is still intact. And given we tested the bottom of the range, wiped out everyone below it, that would be like a bullish setup. You have range low, you would target at least range high, and then just generally, if you're bullish, you would target higher. If you're bearish, maybe you would guess that we're gonna get rejected by a range midpoint, but I don't think we would if we bounce here, just based on the fact that we've tested it a bunch of times. I think, like, if you're gonna bet on anything on this weekly, I think it would be a move from range low to range high. I generally think if we got to range high, we would go higher. So yeah, weekly clearly bullish for now. Especially if this week closes above the range low, because then you can clearly see that there's been absorption below the range. You've had a massive washout. Like, that's all good news, right? Like, this is an excellent chart. It just, you would kind of want this weekly to close also above 90K, just to make sure that this wasn't a sign of weakness and then the next candle just dumps out of it, right? That sometimes happens when you have like a wick to the downside. You trade up here, and then the next week you have a wick to the downside again, and then you trade here, and then you get a wick to the downside and just fucking die. So needs to kind of hold up here. And if you want to see like an example of what I'm talking about, you can kind of look. Oh god, probably I don't even know if this exists on, like, if, yeah, it does go back that far. Like back in 2018, look, this is what you get. I even have it from a prior stream. And this happens all the time, but this one is the one that is clearest in my memory because I was betting on a breakdown based on this, where you just, that's even on lower time frames, but basically you get wicks to the downside, and then you get wicks and wicks and wicks. Probably you cannot go that far down. Let's see if we can. I'm just curious. No, we cannot. TradingView doesn't allow you to go that far. But anyway, you can just go through the time, through the charts and see. Oh no, am I retarded? No, I'm not. You can just go through the charts. Basically, whenever you get like wicks after wicks after wicks, like people are like, oh, this is an SFP, this is an SFP, this is an SFP, and then the entire market just tanks. That's not a bullish thing. It's the same to the upside. When you get wicks to the upside multiple times in a row, that thing wants to break out. It's not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength. Seen that multiple times. It's something that crypto likes, like Bitcoin especially, likes to do a lot, both ways. So you would want to see the weekly close above here just to make sure we're not in that kind of environment where it just keeps wicking to the downside before it fully capitulates. But to me, this is a pretty decent chart. Technically holding the range still. I've tweeted about these instances a couple times in real time. So yeah, that's the weekly. Looking in opposition to the monthly, like the monthly is not that great. The weekly is quite good, in my opinion. The fact that we managed to close all the way back above, that's a good thing. Like I said, needs a little bit of strength. And that strength, I think, has to come in from the daily. And the daily is really, really interesting here because technically speaking, there's an excellent short setup here, right? So you would take a short here, your stops up here, and then you target like new lows, like either this or even like all the way back to 70K. Like that's a really good short setup, in my opinion. Just generally, I just don't feel like taking it because I'm still leaning bullish. I like the weekly, but I get why bears would want to be would want to be bearish here. It's the best kind of like invalidation that you can get. Very, very tight invalidation, like a couple $1,000 invalidation for a gain of like $20,000 captured in price. Like that's quite good. But the good thing is whenever you have like these kind of really good setups on the short side, it's basically if they get blown out, it's very likely that it's actually really bullish, right? So basically we're in the situation where if this resistance here, right, and the reason why I think this is such a good setup is basically because this is the range low, right? We've traded in here for a while, tested it a bunch of times. We had a news pump into it, failed to hold it, and are now pumping back into it, right? So technically this is a bearish retest right here. And then you can make an argument like, hey, I'm just gonna take the bearish retest with an invalidation above the news pump because we really shouldn't go back above there if the market is truly bearish, right? And that's the whole idea, and I really like it from a trade perspective, but I personally like it. My bias is not on the short side, but if it was, that'd be the trade that I would take. It's not. So what I would like to see is basically us reclaiming 90K. Like the moment we start closing back above there and start invalidating that bearish setup, I might actually just lever up and take a bullish setup. So that's kind of how I look at it. Like I said, right now you have the daily and the monthly. Basically you wicked into resistance on the monthly on that bullish news, and you are currently trading into daily resistance, but you're fighting against the weekly, which closed above support. So yeah, I think the bearish setup is better than the bullish one, but I'm still gonna be stubborn. Couldn't your stop also be a liquidity trap for bears? Basically wash out all the bears before dropping. I mean, possible, but I think it's very, very unlikely. The problem with taking like leverage trades right now is that Trump can just like, he says one thing and the market just moves 10 grand. This is Trump pump, Trump dump. So if he says something else, obviously yes. Like if he says something positive and you're in a short trade here, there's a good chance you're gonna get stopped out. And then if he goes back on it like an hour later, which he tends to do, there's a good chance that like even the bulls that take the breakout trade get stopped out and everyone's kind of losing. So yeah, that's kind of the environment we're in right now. It's the risk we take. Why do you favor bull versus bear? I mean, it's just my gut feeling. I don't like to trade against what like I feel like the market should be doing. If anything, I just won't take a trade if the market isn't. Like if I'm like, hey, I think this market should go up, but I get like 3 bearish setups, then I'm not gonna take a bullish trade, even if I feel like, oh yeah, this has to go up. But if I just get bearish setups over bearish setups, I will just not take the bearish, the bullish trade. And the opposite is obviously true also. Like if I only get bullish setups, but I really feel like the market is just not in the right place, I'm just not gonna take the trade. Hey Don, how did you know 80K would make a bounce? I see no support or nothing there. I talked about it on stream, right? I was like, I think we're gonna bottom at like 80, like in the 80s, like low 80s. We dipped a little bit below and dipped into 78, 79K. So like I was a little bit like off just by 1 grand or something before we giga rallied. But basically the reason why I said like low 80s is gonna be a good area is basically because when you have a really strong bull market, right? When the market is really, really strong, what it does is it doesn't give retests. So basically you get like a rally, like this is what people want, right? This is what people want. They're like, this has to be this is the perfect bull market, right? But that's not how it works, right? This is almost never happening. Instead, what the market usually does when it's really strong is it goes up, it pulls back, it goes up, it pulls back, and then has quite a gap in between these areas where traditionally you would want to buy the retest or whatever, and then goes up, and never retesting that area if the market is actually still strong. Now, if the market starts turning weak, it may do something similar like this. It just does. So basically you get, let me actually redraw this whole thing. So basically you get like the rally into resistance, you go up here, and then what you get is like, people are like, oh yeah, I want this perfect retest down here, and they get it, and then it bounces and it's just fucking craters. That's what it usually does when you get these perfect retests. You get a bounce, but it's usually like a lower high or something. At least in crypto, it happens all the time. It's obviously not always the case, but just in situations like where we're in right now, this is usually how it plays out. So basically, if you get the perfect retest, people were waiting for 70, 71K, basically the perfect retest down here. That would have meant that the bull market, at least to me, in that specific circumstances, would have meant to me that the bull market is quite weak and like nearing its end or already has ended. And I was like, I don't think that's necessarily the case. So we're probably gonna follow the traditional market is strong kind of thing, where we front run support and then bounce. And when you get too close to support, like that's just shit. Like let's say you go to 75, it's unlikely that you don't also kind of just run into the support. So I figured probably like 80s, and that worked out quite well. But it's a little bit, I mean, it's just comes with experience basically. But if you get rejected here in the daily short setup plays out, the one that I mentioned, right? Then we're probably gonna do this and retest. Like if we get properly rejected here and the whole Trump summit, crypto summit thing this week is just garbage, which it very well could be. This could roll over, go to 70, maybe wick a little bit below and then bounce. But you wanna sell that bounce, I think. It's probably not a continuation bounce, but like a false hope of sorts. So that's kind of how I look at this thing. Basically, we're still in territory where this can easily be saved and be made into a really good chart. It's good that we held up 80. That was basically where I wanted it to hold if it's really strong. Now we just need to reclaim 90, and then everything looks excellent on both the daily and the weekly. And the monthly is really not that important. It's not the strongest bearish signal that we get there. But if it cannot reclaim 90 and we start losing it, I think at that point we're at the end stages of the bull market. And I mean, this stuff is all very individualistic. It's just how I look at it. And like people might try to one-to-one carbon copy my thinking and then just don't get anywhere. And I mean, that's just how it is, right? But I can just, the reason why I got to 80 was basically this line of thinking, and it worked quite well. Please explain, but no fucking bearish drawings. Thank you. Well, there you go. I removed them for you. This is the line in the sand. And this is why I said the daily is so interesting right now, because a little bit to the upside makes this chart looks really good. And getting rejected here makes it really bad. What keeps you overall with bullish sentiment when macro is so bearish if looking at the S&P? I don't know. I feel like we haven't really priced in the shift in attitude of the US towards crypto. But I must say, if Trump acts more retarded than I think, and that's a tall order, right? Because I think he's going to do a lot of dumb shit, basically. But if he does even more dumb shit than I expect, I mean, that could lead to the S&P completely rolling over, and then crypto isn't safe either. So it's basically, my belief is that Trump is going to do stuff until it really hurts the rich people around him. And then they're going to tell him to stop. And then he's going to stop. But the whole crypto thing that he's clearly embracing is gonna make this thing turn around and have a little bit of a blow off top at the end of it. Now, I could be obviously wrong there. Trump could be less influenced by rich people around him. But I think it's pretty clear that he is. So I just have a little bit of hope that basically he's not gonna fully kill the bull market, or at least that it's gonna take a little bit longer till he does. But I mean, there's a reason why I keep saying like, hey, I've taken a lot of profit on this rally up. Just generally, like this. Usually, how I do my portfolio is I trade and I rotate in crypto, and I take a little bit out every now and then, but most of it I keep in, and then I think the top's in, and then I sell. Right? That's what I did in here in 2021. I sold. I got caught off guard a little bit here, but did quite well still. I was just trading basically, and then managed to get out of that as well. Like I did quite well here. I did really well in 2017. That was my best cycle by far, where I was basically, I just sold the top, and then altcoins went up a little bit higher and it just nuked. But I was basically all in this, and then I sold here. I was doing really well. Here, same story. And then in this cycle, call it washed, call it whatever, whenever I had a good trade, I just took money out of it, because I was like, this is the least predictable cycle for me, and I don't know if I'm gonna be able to guess the exact top or not. So every single trade, I just take more and more money out of the market. So if I'm wrong and this entire thing craters, I'll still be fine. I've just been taking profit every time I close a trade, I withdraw a bunch. And that's kind of how I look at it now. Because it's much, much harder to guess where the top is going to be when you have the president bull posting XRP and ADA. Don, when are you finally going to admit that you and Cred are the same person? I mean, we sound nothing alike. So simple, just sell the top. I mean, that's how it used to be. And it used to be really simple, to me at least. Like you had the Bitcoin run, you had an altcoin run, you got like a large influx of retards, and that's it, and then it was done. And that's kind of how I played it, but I figured early on in this cycle that that's not how it's gonna be this cycle. So I was just like, I'm just gonna sell a bunch whenever I have a good trade. Don, the problem with all the bullish setups that you described on Bitcoin is that there will be news coming on Friday about the strategic Bitcoin reserve. I know. That's what I said earlier. Any bullish or bearish setup can be immediately ruined by Trump. That's why I've just been momentum trading. Like I traded a little bit on the first announcement by just basically buying all the altcoins that he mentioned and then selling. I sold ADA basically pretty early on. Still got most of the move, but sold that pretty early on, and then round tripped some of the others, but still got out with quite a bit of profit of that one. But my core holdings I just keep. I'm just like, whatever. If I'm wrong and this just goes to shit, then I'm wrong and it goes to shit. So be it. But I mean, it's obviously not as great for from a viewer perspective, because everyone kind of seems to be used to me just calling the top and then it nukes. So everyone's kind of like, yeah, Don, you're gonna have to do that again. And I can tell you that there's a chance that I will just not nail it. There's a reason why I'm just taking profit along the way, because I have less confidence in me nailing the top this time around than any other time before. So don't sit here waiting for me like I did in 2017-18 or in 2021 when I flipped the duck and I was like, okay, everything is gonna nuke, and then everything nuked. Don't expect that to necessarily happen again. I'm not gonna be your top indicator. I will try, but there's a reason why I'm taking profit along the way. What Don is trying to say is that you're not early anymore, motherfuckers. I mean, yeah. Bitcoin's at 100K. Like, I think that should be pretty clear to anyone. Hi Don, I know you missed me a lot. Worry not, I'm here. Good to see you, my friend. my heart rests easy now. Are Solana and ETH dead? Absolute dog shit bull cycle. Yeah, they're struggling. Yeah, but yeah, I'll talk about them. But that's Bitcoin. Basically, there's a short setup right now. I'm not gonna take it. I'm not gonna change anything. I just want to see this weekly close above support. That'd be nice if it does. And if there's no ginormous upset Friday when Trump talks about crypto, and then that's just how I'm gonna look at it. Too bad someone told me to listen to you. I just entered the market. I mean, sorry, bro. Should have been here 2018 or 2021. I was not washed up back then. I am washed now. Now I'm just like, I'm not as in tune with the market. Like back then I was just 24/7 in front of the computer. Now I have a family. Like, yeah, I don't expect the same performance necessarily. How do bullish setups above 90K work? You just buy the close, or would you hope for a retest? Basically, close above 90K and then buy into anything that isn't necessarily news strength, right? Yeah. KSI outtrades Don now, as washed as it gets. I don't know about that one. Still managed to buy XRP before it like 5x'd. Still not that washed. Anyone that didn't catch the XRP move cannot talk. Don't say something racist, you redact. Why would I do that? But yeah, that's Bitcoin. ETH, still tragic. Someone asked for Hopium. Don't really have anything. ETH BTC, sad. ETH USD, sad. This has to do a lot of work right now. Like basically the bullish setup failed. The triangle failed. Just kind of has to come back above here now. So basically triangle failed. And I think if you want to be bullish, and we talked about this, right? I was like, hey, just be cautious and buy whenever it reclaims this. When we're trading down here, it didn't. It broke down and I was like, okay, now you can buy when it reclaims this. It didn't. It broke down. Now I'm saying being cautious makes a lot of sense. I still think it's good value, ETH, relative to the market, but just from a trader perspective, anything above this zone, I think is a clear long. But until it does that, yeah. The only thing that I can draw in terms of bullish hopium is that you could argue this is a range. We had a range down here, and now this is a range again. Like if you really want to stretch it, and then you're like, okay, you kind of just have like a weird like range reclaim, and this is the proper range retest, but that's like really, really far-fetched. But be my guest. If that's all you need, that's fair enough. 2K is the support from there. But I generally think buying into strength on ETH makes a lot of sense above 2.8. Basically, you buy whenever I start being not underwater anymore, because my average is like 2.9, 3K, like somewhere in here. You buy anywhere where where I'm not getting fucked. I think that's a decent buy. From a trading perspective, because I think if you reclaim here, you're basically gonna teleport upwards. But as long as there's just no strength on this, I think it's a risky bet. ETH BTC, there's nothing really there. It is at monthly support, but it was at monthly support up here. It didn't do shit. But it is finally capitulating. Like that's a proper capitulation. It's the inverse of what we had here, right? Where you have it accelerates to the upside and then it pumps. It accelerates to the downside and it dumps. Like that's proper capitulation, but can go lower still. I always have maintained the fact that nothing is on because people said Bitcoin and ETH and then everything else, and I've always maintained that the only thing that really truly lasts is Bitcoin. Still the case. So there you go. Don, how much of your trading success has been full porting, high conviction, high time frame setups versus trading a lot of shorter 1 to 2 risk individual trades? It's really hard to say because, I mean, obviously, like at the start, like when I made most of my percentage gains, I had very little money and I was just full porting everything. I full portfolio Dogecoin and then went up, and then I didn't take 1 or 2% risk. I took 20% risks at the start, and then as I went along further and further, my risk just kept dropping. And yeah, so it depends is the answer, because numerically you could argue like, hey, some of the 5% risks that I've taken have outshined my early trades where I full ported, because I made more money than I made back then, but also percentage wise, obviously it's different. So hard to say. I generally don't really believe in the 1 to 2% risk thing. I think sometimes when you have a really good setup, you just gotta risk a little bit more. Don't you have words of encouragement for Doge holder? Ilona didn't deliver. Hope dropping fast. No, I don't. I am not a believer in Elon. I just think his popularity has topped. I think he's gonna be the scapegoat, because the whole Doge thing has ended in a big disaster, basically. People might say like, hey, he's fighting corruption, whatever, but the negative press that it's getting is much, much larger than any of the positives. And I think he's gonna basically be the scapegoat for that. So I wouldn't necessarily, like, Doge is basically the Elon coin. I wouldn't necessarily want to bet on something like that, just because I think his reputation is toast. Don't really think he can turn it around. So I'm not the biggest fan. Now, obviously, Doge on its own, I think, is actually in quite a good spot because it can get an ETF. So if you wanna have some hopium, I think that's your best bet. And I mean, I'm saying this no matter whether you like Elon or not. It doesn't, like, I'm not saying like, hey, he's doing something terrible or he's something good. I'm just saying the population generally just dislikes him more than they did before, and the people that liked him anyway. So I think he's basically everyone on the edge fucking hates him now. A lot of people, like, firing everyone is just not gonna make a lot of people happy. It's just not how it is. So I'm not the biggest fan of anything involving him. XRP, still excellent, not really much to talk about. Still trading, like, got rejected by that old range, but obviously got really good news. I generally think anything in the list, and I fucking hate that list that Trump made, it's XRP, ADA, and Solana. Anything in that list got a lot of legitimacy, especially XRP and ADA, because they're kind of the butt of the joke, right? Like a lot of people take Solana serious, but barely anyone takes XRP serious, and like no one takes ADA serious. And the fact that they managed to make it on the president's list, right, gives them a lot of legitimacy. So I think those are the ones that are actually going to be the most interesting from the large caps. Those are the ones that managed to get into the sphere of influence of Trump. So it's just kind of how I look at it. So basically, I think XRP and ADA probably gonna outperform. Fucking hate ADA, so I don't know if that. I mean, today is also outperforming. Yeah, it's the smallest of the bunch. Basically means it's more volatile. It's one of the reasons why I was quite happy to trade it on the move up. I didn't capture all of this. I only captured part of it, but a good part of it. But yeah, basically those coins I think are gonna like gained a lot of recognition, a lot of legitimacy, and XRP was doing quite well on that front anyway. So makes it a little bit more bullish even, and chart wise there's really nothing to say. Like, this is just hilariously bullish of a chart. Like, if you compare this to any of the others, like you have, like, look, you have ETH BTC, this is how it looks, and then you have this. even Sol BTC. I mean, just look. And this is the darling of the cycle. This is Sol versus XRP. Everyone says Solana is the trade of the cycle. It's literally lost all the gains it's made against XRP in the last couple of weeks. So like it's down, like Solana, the coin that everyone would say outperformed everything, is down 84%. Like this looks like a shit coin that went to zero. And I think that might, like, I still like XRP, like one of the best altcoins right now. Just generally, don't like it as a coin. Don't get me wrong. I don't like what it stands for, but as a trade setup and as an idea of a trade setup, it's still one of my favorite, if not my favorite. Is there any good XRP setups? I think $10 is actually possible. I think $10 is also possible. It sounds fucking retarded to say it. And there's a good chance that I'm gonna sell before. And I don't want to shill anyone into XRP and then they hold and then they go through whatever the fuck usually happens after XRP tops, which is down 99%. But I think just generally, just looking at this thing, it's just, I mean, you start breaking out of the high, like the prior high. Look, we broke out here. It was at 0.06 cents and it went to $3, right? So like that's like 5,000% gain. Now, obviously that's not what I'm expecting, but it's kind of hilarious that we're talking about like a 3 or 4x as being insane. And that's kind of what this would be, right? 2.5 to $10 would be a 4x right now. Now, obviously, that's still insane just because the market cap is so big. But if the market goes a little bit crazy, I think this can go stupid real fast. Problem is, the moment this tops, you will not get an exit. Like XRP moves like this. And that's not necessarily nice because a lot of the things in crypto move like this. XRP doesn't do any of that. Look at the prior cycles. Like you don't get, like you got like a little bit of like a complacency bounce, but didn't even make a new high. This is not necessarily the behavior of XRP. XRP just completely bleeds out the moment it stopped. So you have a big risk with XRP that if you hold it too long, you just basically bleed out, you don't get a bounce to sell. So there's big risks with XRP, but also I just simply think it's the coin that is positioned best for the current administration in the US. It's a banker coin. They apparently have enough influence to get to Trump. And yeah, I mean, it's all you really need, right? Like people, the boomers like people in suits. And this is one of the few coins in crypto that has that image down perfectly. If the only one. Like ETH, no. ETH's fucking unicorns. ADA, clearly not. Solana, scammer coin. Like everyone's just scamming on that thing. What else? Bitcoin Cash, crazy people. Litecoin, I mean, not really. You know what I mean? Like this is the only coin that appeals to that boomeristic traditional worldview. I think it's very damaging to crypto, but that's why I think it's quite a good trade. So TP1, TP1 6.9, TP2 10. I mean, I just take profit the higher it goes. Like if it makes a new like if it makes a new high above 3.3, I'm gonna sell some again. And then if it goes to 6.9, I'm gonna sell a lot more. And if it goes to 10, I'm gonna sell everything. I don't think I'm gonna like around like 9.5, 10. If it ever would get there, I would sell everything. Chainlink 2, maybe, but not really in comparison. I turned on Bloomberg channel today and couldn't believe it when I saw they still track Bitcoin Cash and Ethereum Classic. Yeah, the boomers are fucking slow. When you say sell some, like 20% of holding or something, yeah, like above 3 point something, I would probably sell like 10% again, and I just keep selling like 10% every time we make a new all-time high-ish. Selling everything, your house included, selling every XRP I own. But yeah, that's that. Like I said, risk is there that the top's already in, and this just kind of does something like this. So don't be too complacent. I just like it as an idea. In this market, like if we haven't topped, if Bitcoin hasn't topped, and if crypto hasn't topped, I think this is one of the best bets. Litecoin I like as well. It's struggling a little bit this week. It outperformed massively last week. Struggling a little bit this week. But I still straight up like the idea. It's basically like the Dogecoin trade, just it's basically an ETF trade. You want to see Litecoin ETF, and I think at that point it would do really well. Downside is quite limited in comparison to a lot of other coins, but also obviously the upside is less than if you go lower market cap. I still like it. I still hold some. I want to see how this monthly closes. I would like to see this monthly close above the green box. If it does, I'll be beyond happy to have it. Is the 6.9 XRP target a fib level or just a meme number? It's just a meme number. Don, I'm really bad in selling. How do you sell everything? Just market sell? Can you give some tips, please? It depends on how much of the supply I have. I'm not gonna sell market sell everything I own on a smaller coin, because I don't want to nuke the chart. But if it's Bitcoin or something, yeah, if I'm like fuck this, then I might market sell. Usually I just sell in batches. It's like sell a bunch and then sell a bunch later again, and then go with that. It's not that hard. The thought process is harder of okay, actually listening to yourself, right? So for example, if XRP goes and makes a new high at 3.4, you're gonna be like, holy shit, this is so bullish. I actually want to buy more. For me, I don't believe in any of the crypto stuff too much. A little bit maybe in Bitcoin, but in anything else, not really. So for me, it's really easy. I'm holding something that's worth 0, and that's to me all these coins, right? Beyond Bitcoin, all of the stuff I own, in my head, it's worth 0, and I get to sell it for a lot more. So it's not really that hard for me to sell. It goes to 3.4. I'm like, holy shit! I managed to sell something that is worth 0 for $3.4, and I'm gonna make this and this amount of it. That seems like a good deal. And I'm in my head, I know that these coins will be lower in the long term. And so even if it goes, even if I sell a little bit at 3.5 and it goes to 5, I'm like, I mean, yeah, that's fair enough. It's good that I still have some, but I'm totally happy with having sold at 3.5, because I know that in the future, even if this goes crazy, that we're probably going to end up somewhere much lower again. But that's only because I don't really have faith. If you have faith, you probably want to trade differently, and you want to have a core position in the thing that you actually believe in. I just don't. So when Cred makes videos, do you use a voice modulator, or is it just regular voice acting? You guys are mentally ill. What do you think about Sonic and Barachain? I have no idea. I've never used either of them. I generally think anything that is a Solana competitor is in a good spot, just because it's a Solana's competitor. And I think Solana is kind of struggling because it has that stigma of scam chain. But yeah, so Litecoin we talked about. Solana, not great. How that kind of went. Pretty predicted. That was pretty obvious the moment it lost the support it had. Now it's back in the older range. We talked about this actually at the bottom last time on the Friday show. I was like, if there's ever gonna be if you're a Solana bull and you like Solana, this is where you would want to buy it. It's the perfect kind of storm, but that didn't last for very long. But did a quite nice bounce, right? When we talked about it, was at 130, went all the way to 180. That was a decent kind of trade. I generally just don't like it. it looks exactly like ETH did. It still looks exactly the same. I mean, I'm gonna do it to you guys. Sometimes you gotta. So you do this and then you do that, and then you compare Solana BTC on the weekly to ETH BTC on the 2 weeks, and then you zoom out a little bit. I can even remove all of those past drawings, don't need those. And then you have the exact same chart. High, high, lower high, lower high. You got that whole droopy shit here. You nuked. You had a little bit of range in here. It's a little bit of range. Start breaking out of it. Went into range at the top. Range at the top. Can even start drawing, like, look here, 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 here. And then you had a little bit of a lower high, same here. Then you had a higher high here. Then you made a consolidation that was lower than that. And then you fucked off. So, I mean, that's not great, obviously. I think it's pretty much in the same situation that ETH was in. A lot of people have a lot of soul. A lot of scammers have a lot of soul. And retail got completely rinsed. In both of those instances. So chart is pretty much exactly the same. Now, obviously, it doesn't have to play out the same way. And clearly, it's like a little bit of a different time frame. Like, it's double the speed. But still, like, I just don't like that. It's not something I'm very interested in. So, I mean, it's quite funny though, like how it looks exactly the same. And it was exactly the same. Like, if anyone remembers how people were talking about ETH in anywhere up until 2018, right? It's exactly the same cycle that we went through with Solana, where everyone was like, no, Solana is gonna be Bitcoin and Solana because ETH's old tech, whatever. Before it's Bitcoin and ETH, and at some point people were even saying like Bitcoin is irrelevant, it's all ETH. Now people are saying Bitcoin and ETH are irrelevant, it's Sol. It's the same story at the end of the day. This is how it always ends. God exists and he's trolling us with those charts, yeah. And I mean, this could easily turn around. And if you want to be bullish Solana, be my guest. I'm not hating on the Solana bulls. You do whatever you want to do. I'm not here to fight the fight, especially if I'm not short, which I'm not. Reclaim this on the Bitcoin pair, and then we can talk about it. Until then, I mean, the next support is quite a bit lower. And on Sol USD, I mean, we are at range low. So if you want to be bullish, that's the spot, because realistically, there's nothing. There's no support anywhere close. This is all garbage in here. So it makes sense to be bullish here just because there's just garbage below. And you would not necessarily think that we would be able to break into this if Bitcoin goes up, right? So maybe that's the saving grace. Bitcoin goes up, Solana holds up, comes back up, and actually at some point maybe breaks out. But I just don't like the chart. I don't like what the people in Solana did. I don't like any of it. I'm just staying away. But I'm not sure, don't really care. People are gonna scream at me again. Like, I don't really care. I do not care where Solana goes. I think Solana competitors are the main benefactors of all of this. Is it normal that almost all coins go towards zero versus Bitcoin? It scares me. Yes, it's very normal. Has been happening for the last 10 years. Will always happen. There's a few exceptions. XRP BTC being one. 2013 was trading like a little bit more than it is right now. Still the exact same. Like, I mean, I drew this range before. Like, this is a range against Bitcoin. XRP is done fuck all, which is really good. It's one of the rare coins that has done it. Another exception is Doge. Doge has actually basically outperformed Bitcoin since inception by quite a bit. Probably gonna start losing that eventually, but I mean, you can like launch somewhere here, still up like 3 or 4x. But other than those, and maybe ETH, but that's kind of like starting to come back to where it was as well. And the reason why all of this is the case is because essentially it's all worthless. And Bitcoin is the biggest coin. Bitcoin is like the S&P, and everything else, every altcoin that you look at is like something in the S&P. And this is being very charitable, but like a lot of things have come and gone in the S&P, right? Like a lot of companies have gone and been included in the S&P and dropped back out of the S&P. But the S&P's been there. And Bitcoin is kind of like that for us, for our market. Like you have Bitcoin, and that's not going to go as long as the market exists. And then you have altcoins, and they can come and they can go. And most of the time, they're completely vaporware, so they go. There you go. XRP BTC looks insanely toppy to me. I mean, I don't see it. To me, this looks really bullish. Let me... Did I remove all my fucking drawings? No. Where did they go? Whatever. To me, this is just a ginormous range. Doesn't look really bearish. But you can make an argument. Like, that's basically it. We're in the middle of the range. Like, we've been here. Let me box it out. Yeah, it's actually quite nice. That's it. That's the XRP BTC chart, right? And we've been here like a million times. So if you think it's going to repeat and it's just going to get rejected here, fair enough. Like you're like, hey, this happened 5 times. We've gotten rejected here 5 times. It's going to go down. Fair enough. To me, this looks like at some point that it's going to break out. And this is the one that might actually just make it to the range high. And then obviously like range low again, probably. But to me, this looks like it's an intermediate kind of pause, not the end of it. But I could be wrong on that front. Do you have a USD target for Litecoin? Yes. 240-ish would be enough for me. Should we expect a big move soon if bullish, since this is where all the bears are going short? Probably. Yes. Yes. This is going to be quick. You're going to see tomorrow be something like this, in my opinion anyway, or like the day after tomorrow, or you're going to see it like this. I don't think we're necessarily going to hang around at this resistance too long. Are there any coins to rotate into after the Trump coins pump, or is that for this? Or is that it for the cycle? I mean, I don't even know if they're gonna pump. It's not a guarantee, but for me, that's gonna be it. I'm not gonna buy any smaller coins, but obviously, I'm not saying like those are gonna be the only coins that are gonna go up. Like if they go up, there's gonna be smaller coins that are gonna probably outperform. I'm just saying those are the ones that I think have the most likelihood to go up, and they're also sufficiently big for me not to move the market. So you can trade whatever you want. If you think altcoins generally go up, and that kind of would be the vibe, then like Bitcoin Cash is up 20% today. It's not one of Trump coins. There's obviously like Link is up. Like there's obviously other coins that are going to do well. I'm just like, those are not really too interesting for me. I'm not really trading the smaller coins anymore. I'm late, looked at ADA. I think ADA and XRP are very similar. It's just, I think ADA has less staying power, but is a smaller coin, so the move to the upside might be more explosive if we get it. But yeah, I think that's enough for today. We'll see how this develops. I hope and think that this is probably going to go to the upside, but it might not. We'll see. The macroeconomic situation is beyond me. Shit's fucking wild right now, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, hope I helped in any shape or form. Thanks for coming by. Much love to you guys. Makes it much more enjoyable. Otherwise, I wouldn't be talking for an hour. Would be weird. But yeah, thanks for coming by. Big shout out to Woo for sponsoring the show. Yeah, let's see how this goes. Much love. Bye bye.